Well, welcome everybody to the Tuesday night Habits of Health class. My name is Troy Drollinger, and I'm a certified health coach. And we're going to start tonight with Becky Spargo. She's going to share her story, and take it away, Becky.
Well, hello, America. This is Becky Spargo, certified health coach with Take Shape for Life, coming to you from the great state of Texas. I wanted to tell you about my story with Take Shape for Life. Before Take Shape for Life, I was mostly there on the left-hand side. I was always 20, 30 pounds overweight. I was a jogger. I tried different programs, and I just never could get anywhere where I was whenever I was younger. And so, I just thought that's just the way it's going to be, I guess. I'm older now, and, it's just the way it is. And so I was very accepting of it and that kind of thing. And anyway, I got married later on in 2010. And from 1 year to the next, one doctor's appointment to the next, I gained 18 more pounds, which is totally unacceptable to me. He didn't say anything. He's a prince. It was me. So I said, I'm going to have to do something professional. So I looked around. I heard about Take Shape for Life. And so I left my contact information with them. And my health coach called me. And I said, look, if I have to go weigh in and talk about it somewhere all evening, I want to find something else. I'm not interested in it. And she said, no, it comes right to your house. You're in charge of your own weight loss. There's no commitments, and all of that sounded really good to me. So I started program November 2nd. I signed up there on the spot, and I started the program November 2nd. And by the following February, I had gotten the 25 pounds off that I wanted to get off, and I didn't even think it was possible. But it came off, and I started phase 2, which is in the habits of health. And to me, which is the best part about the program, is transition and maintenance. Because as you see, most of my adult life, I was there on the left, and I just struggled with weight all of my adult life. Ever since Take Shape for Life, I got to a healthy weight quickly and safely. But the best part about this program is the habits of health that I incorporated in here and in my heart and in my body. I just love it because of the habits of health. I have not gained the weight back and it's been over 3 years. And so to me, it's by far the biggest part and the best part about the program. So tonight, just keep listening to the habits of health. And if this sounds like something that you'd want to incorporate into your life, just contact whoever sent you the webinar or whoever told you about this live webinar and talk to them more about it, because it's really freeing. And I know I'll never be overweight again because of this program. And I want that for you too. So just that's my story, and thanks for listening.
Well, thanks, Becky, for that. That's pretty much, it's from the heart, and that's what we're all about, is really helping and guiding other people. So I'd like to introduce one of my health coaches, Angela Dryden. She's a certified health coach, and she's going to be talking about week 4 tonight. And so go ahead and take it away, Ange.
There I am. All right, I'm unmuted now. So we're on week 4 here for the habits of health. We've got some great stuff so far that we talked about, a lot about structural tension, things like that. And so now we're going into preparing for that blueprint for the weight loss. So getting into that part of the journey. These are some resources that we have. So we've also, of course, Dr. Anderson's Habits of Health book and workbook are strongly recommended. We're going to be covering over chapter 6 and 7, and then also in the workbook, section 8, lesson 8 plan in the workbook as well. And these are some great, thehabitsofhealth.net is a great resource, again, to go to and get some additional information to. And so we'll go to the next one. All right, so where we were. So before, where we used to be, our environment before was calories in, calories out. Our activity was high. Before we were moving, plowing the fields, doing those things when somebody was saying they're out in the field, they really are out in the field. Nowadays, we say out in the field, that means they're at a luncheon somewhere. So before, where we were at that time was our activity was equaling our calories in. And so now, as we kind of progress throughout our lifestyles, we have some things that have changed in the last 100 years. So we're going to go ahead, next slide. And so what's changed? So definitely our sedentary lifestyle. So with technology changing items in this 20th century, we also have, of course, the industry of food, drive-through. So it is a huge, wonderful industry that has made convenience of being in that into being overweight, where our culture has kind of taken us. Kentucky Fried Chicken, we talked about that, also associated with the culture of consumption. So needing more. So when we go out to eat, our dinner serving sizes are huge. We have these huge plates. We always have leftovers. And then some people, they're not leaving with leftovers. They're eating everything at that point in that given time. Of course, we have the automobile that was invented during those times. So we're not having to move as much. Our activity level is just decreased rapidly. Radio, television, broadcasting. So now we can stay home and be entertained. There's no need to make our own entertainment. And so just an abundance amount of things of our lifestyle that has become now what we call the norm. So our normal lifestyle of what it is now is so sedentary that the foods that we're consuming, we're not releasing the energy from that food through our activity. All right, so controlling energy intake. So here we are. We've got our good, statue of a man here for our calories in, calories out. So as you can see, our calories in have increased immensely. Not only are the calories that are in, it's the quality of the calories that we're consuming. So we're consuming a lot of empty calories, calories that have no nutritional value behind them. And then the calories out, we're sedentary, we're not moving as much. And so now the calories out, we're just not, it's not equaling each other. So obviously we're now getting put ourselves in a bad situation. So, but how bad has it gotten? It's gotten pretty bad. I mean, it doesn't take much to look around and see where we've come. So from this study right here, you can see like in 1986, it talks about until 2000, how the BMI index has increased immensely. I mean, people that before, having people that were 50 plus BMI was considered just outrageous. That just wasn't happening. And now it's becoming that, anybody that's over 35 in a BMI is almost more normal than where it used to be at before, which is not where we want to be. A healthy BMI is right around 25 and below. And so, the BMI of 30 and above is becoming more and more rapid increase. So, all right. And also, of course, children are really suffering from this as well. This is something that has, our lifestyle changes have become so quick pace with trying to get food on the go. And of course, those food on the goes are unnutrition, not healthy for us. And so the children are obviously having that as well. I remember a time when we would be driving and my son would say, McDonald's, McDonald's. It's just like, the moth that's swarming to the light. And so that's kind of what's happened with our children. All right, so the core principle of weight loss. So it's easy to think and easy to say, but there's more, to it than that. But controlling your energy intake and managing your insulin pump. So those are very key in our weight loss strategy. So we're gonna have some graphs here. So these are talking about your reactions. So when we eat, our the glycemic index increasing through the activities of what we're doing. So, and the things that we're eating are not what we need to be eating. So these are things that are high. In the next couple of weeks, they'll be talking on more about like the complex carbohydrates, protein intake, those kinds of things. We'll be getting more into the meat of that. But right now, as you can see down below, there's orange juice, bagels, hamburger, soft drinks, candy bars. So it's items that are very high in the glycemic index. And what's happening is that it's spiking our blood sugar, glucose levels. And then, of course, because of that, we're putting ourselves into what's called fat storage mode. instead of fat releasing or, you know, getting rid of. We're actually storing it. So we're putting our body into a spot where we're not able to expel off weight, and, you know, we're trying to run it off. Becky, you know, had a great that she talked about with running and exercise, and that it just wasn't happening because of, it's not necessarily the activity that we're doing, but it's the stuff that we're consuming that's causing more of that havoc on our blood glucose levels. And so this is a really good chart that kind of shows what the normal standard, you know, the standard American diet is kind of going through. So next slide. So this is what we want to have happen. So this is more of where you would like to be, instead of having those peaks and valleys within our glycemic index. We want it to be more of a steady stream, more consistent. One thing that I have talked to people before about with comparing about the glycemic index is also you get this burst of like the sugar rush we see in kids and things like that, and then it just goes down and you just kind of flatline. You go down so low that you need something to eat again quickly. Well, as you can see in this, when we want to release fat, when we want to lose the weight, that there's this steady influx of going on. So it's not a spike of those valleys and peaks, but it's more of just that steady curve, that kind of what I always like to call, you know, that steady eddy. Just keep it going, just keep on going, and you feel like you have better concentration throughout the day. You have just more clarity in what you're doing and what you're saying, things like that. And so those are really good signs that you're kind of in that even keel. You're not feeling rushed to have to eat. You just feel like, oh, it's been 3 hours. It's time for me to fuel up with something again. And this is what you want to get yourself into a good, what we would call, you know, fat, getting rid of fat, expelling fat. I always, you know, releasing it. I always say you never want to lose it. You always want to release it, because release it means you're never going to get it back again. And so this is really what we want to kind of see, is just having that consistency. And it does speak a little bit, we talking about portion control, meal replacements is one thing that we talk about, and that having that, Dr. Anderson talks about it in this section of the workbook and book about having medical formulated portion control meal replacements, so that you are getting exactly what your body needs every time, every 2.5 to 3 hours, so that you can keep those blood sugar glucose levels even, and you just feel like you're in sync with the day. Go ahead and next slide. All right, so the insulin response curve. So here you go. So because you're talking low glycemic index meals, not the high glycemics, you're not having those that peaks and valleys again. Again, you're just having that fueling, that getting what your body needs as it kind of goes consistently along the line. It's just so important for your overall and long-term health of what your goals are, to be able to do that. Because the fueling, you know, the 6 fuelings a day, they've done some studies on that as well, and how that can really help with blood glucose levels. And that is something that's really rampant, that's just really big in America right now, is the type 2 onset diabetes, and how before that it was, you know, usually in older individuals, and now we're seeing it becoming very high and, you know, in these children. And that's when we were talking about the children that were experiencing that their glycemic index, not glycemic index, there's BMR, their BMI, BMI, that's what it is, basal metabolic index. So anyways, their BMI, their body mass index, where they're at, how important it is that they have that healthy, you know, state line for what they're doing. And so this is kind of gives you an idea of what that would look like. All right, next slide. All right, so in order to do that, we have to create an environment that is health ready. So that is the key. So knowing now that you need to be able to fuel your body consistently, to be able to keep that glycemic index levels, you know, even throughout the day, you also want to create habits and forms and things that you're doing that are keeping you in an environment that you feel safe and that you'll be able to maintain for long-term health. So go ahead, next slide. So you want to make that microenvironment of health. So creating that within your within, you know, where you live. Even within the workplace is really key as well, because a lot of people spend time at work as well. But reducing within your refrigerator, so it talks about, you know, getting rid of the whole dairies, the processed meats, sodas, beers, those things. And then also creating, because sleep, when we'll get into that as well, chapter 17 in the workbook, and about creating that environment within that room as well, because sleep is really important, and we'll talk more about that coming up. But removing clutter so that you feel like you can sleep, you know, making sure that the shades on your windows and stuff are dark so that you're getting that sleep that you need. Keeping your room cool is really important. I know with the weather and it being summertime, that's something to really try to do so you can just get a good night's sleep. Getting rid of things in your pantry that are those simple carbs. So the rice, the flours, the refined cereals, things like that, sugar cereals, all those kinds of things, you know, getting those out, cookies, candies, all those crackers, things like that, that just are not, that are going to spike your blood sugar levels. They're not going to keep them steady. And then adding things like your brown rice, your legumes, and whole grain breads, you know, beans, all those kind of things are really important. All right, next slide. And so once you've created that environment, how do you stay on the bus? You know, keeping activities when I'm thinking of jumping off of it, not wanting to do that, and then creating it so that you are staying on the bus. That's really important. And so things that we can do for that. Next slide. All right, so choosing healthier, leaner foods. So within that pantry, you know, the refrigerator, cleaning that out, now we've created an environment that can be more sustainable for us. So creating habits for long-term success. And so obviously right now, though, we're wanting to create that fat-burning area. So we want to have those lean proteins, those healthy fats and oils, you know, your vegetables, healthy condiments and seasonings, things that are going to be good for, you know, seasoned foods, stuff like that, without adding additional calories and stuff to it as well. All right, go ahead and next screen. All right, so here's some of your choices for your meats and things. So you have your leanest meats, of course, obviously any kind of wild animals, I would say. So your buffalo, elk, and deer. You can have up to 7 ounces of that for a lean protein. So the leaner the protein, that you'll want to add fat to that as well. So a healthy additional fat would be important with that. And then of course your leaner meat, you know, your white turkey breast, things like that. And then you have your lean, which is more like your ground beef, you know, with at least an 80% lean, and that would be underneath, you'd be doing about 5 ounces of that. So you're going to go anywhere from 7 ounces to 5 ounces on your portion controls, depending on what it is you're getting. And of course, the same thing with your fat content. So obviously, if you have a leaner fat, you want a little bit, you're going to need some extra fat with that, because that is important throughout the whole process. And then also, if you have stuff that already has the fat on it, you don't need that additional one. So you'd already have enough within that portion of protein. All right, next slide. Okay, so an adequate supply of fat helps your body to absorb fat-soluble vitamins such as your A's, D's, E's, and K's that contributes to the gallbladder health. Fats also help you lose weight by giving you a sense of fullness and texture. So fats are very important. There's actually a really great documentary that I actually really enjoy, and it's called Fed Up. So that might be something that if you wanted to go ahead and watch that as well. And it talks about the whole no fat craze that happened in the 90s, 80s, 90s, and what that did actually to our environment of health. And so we want to include those healthy fats. If those are important for us, those are something that our body needs. And exactly like it says, because it really helps with the nutrition soluble of the foods that you're eating, so you're getting the value of those nutrition out of that food. That's really important. All right, next slide. Okay, so your vegetables, all that kind of good stuff. These are, the great thing about vegetables, there's so many to choose from. There's so much, all different kinds of ways to prepare it. that are healthy for you. So definitely adding in the vegetables are really important. Also, the recommendation of what we have is we recommend, they recommend, between 5 to 7 servings, and most of us are getting a lot less of that. So don't be chintzy on the vegetables. Eat the vegetables. All right, next one. So we talked a little bit about this as well, your healthy fats and stuff. So fat contains 9 calories, twice as much as the carb and protein, which is true. So obviously, you can eat a smaller amount of portion of that, but actually feels more satisfied, which is one thing that's, a good thing about fats as well. But then you don't want to overconsume, you don't want to go get that big, huge thing of almonds and eat all of them. That's not a good idea. But to have that portion control, again, making sure that you're eating the right things. Watching the carbohydrates, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, all those things. One thing that I wanted to mention as well is journaling is really important in this part of your journey. You want to know which direction you're going, just like we talked about adding that structural attention in, so that you know where you're going to end up. And so being able to clock that and have that in, a system is really important, and be able to see what you can improve upon the next week is really important as well. All right, and I think that's everything. I think I actually got done a lot earlier. No, I'm sorry, healthy snacks. I forgot about this one, because you got to have healthy snacks. So healthy snacks and condiments. So those are important as well. So just like the 6 fuelings that you want to have throughout your day, another important thing is every once in a while you might feel like you just need a little bit of something to munch on. And so healthy snacks are really important to have, so that when you go to grab something, you are grabbing something healthy, and that it's guilt-free. You're not going to feel bad about it. So some of the things, of course, the options that they have here are your celery, your sugar-free popsicles, dill pickle spares. Love those. Those are one of my favorites. So I love that kind of stuff. But then condiments. So you want to be able to season your foods as well. So the meats and stuff. I find that one thing that we really got into in our society was to dress our food in like gravy. So everything had this amount of like gravy on it. And understanding that there are ways to flavor our food without having to put any kind of extra layers of, unhealthy carbohydrates within the food as well. And so it's really important to understand that there's so many flavorings that you can put into it when you grill, when you broil your food, things like that can add some really good flavor to it. And just help throughout the whole process of being able to really enjoy the flavor of that vegetable. Really enjoy. One of my favorite things, I loved it when I had a client that said, I hate lettuce. I'm never going to eat lettuce. Never. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a little difficult. So by the end of her journey, though, after about 6 months, she says, it's funny. I get to the point where I'm starting to crave salad, like I want it. And that's really what happens throughout this whole entire process, is that as you put aside certain things that you don't need, those things that are high glycemic, that are spiking those blood sugars, that are making you feeling that whole up and down, roller coaster ride of emotions. And when you get to the point that you're setting it out, you start to realize that you truly enjoy these foods. And the thing that happens is that you want those foods. It's not that you have to eat your vegetables. It's now to a point that you want to eat your vegetables. And that's really important throughout the process, is to just enjoy that journey and understand that that does actually happen. I have some people say to me, do you never eat certain this and that? And I go, well, there's certain things I do eat and certain things I don't. But it's because now I want them, and that I choose them at the time I choose them. And it's more of that whole feeling that you just have control over that environment, and you understand the value behind your food and the nutrition in your food and what you're getting from it and what you're giving your body. So that's just a whole thing about that I find very fascinating, about this whole Habits of Health system and what it can do as far as helping me to look at food differently and really understand and experience and enjoy foods again. But there's a lot of different kinds of condiments and seasonings. That's a short little list. If you did have a coach that invited you to this webinar, there's an actually more extensive list that they could email you as well, full of lots of different spices and seasonings to use on your food. So it's a really great list. All right, and is that one the last? Look at that, there's still one more. So the key to healthy weight loss is the ability to master the amount of fueling you're taking in. And that's one thing you really learn throughout the process. Not all calories are created equal. You've got to realize that the value in what you're eating and what kind of nutritional value you're getting out of that food, and then the quality of the fuel that you're taking in is really important. And those are some great things about, just controlling that insulin pump so that we can get our body into fat burning mode and get out of that fat storage mode. And so that's what I've got to say about that.
Great, Angela. Thanks. Thanks for that. That was, she touched on a lot of different points that everybody's on right now. It's really interesting if you look at, your calories in, your calories out, and your consumption, and what you're doing in your life, and a lot of people think, okay, well, I'll start that Monday, or I'll make this change next month after these parties and anniversaries and other things. We look at life and we look at how we want to create this micro environment of health in our life, and how important that is to each individual that wants to create better health. And so, if we look at different things like, just talking about the pantry, getting rid of these things, it's so important to be mindful of the different things that you're wanting to create and the things you're wanting to create in your microenvironment. Because this journey and different things that you do in your health is all about you. It's not about, anybody else in your sphere. Your sphere of influence, it might be a very huge, vast. There might be a lot of people that that may be telling you, eat this, eat that type of thing. Well, you're really wanting to create health because you want to make that stand and make that change that's going to really have that long-term success. Just like Angela's talking about, all these little things that we talk about in this class, it's so important to, you might not take everything away because, we're doing this in 30 minutes. So it's not like you can look at this and say, hey, I got this from it, or maybe you got a whole bunch from it. But most people take little bits and pieces. And over time, you kind of look at, how do you eat alpha one bite at a time? And we all know this. But, you look at your life and you look at the things you can change to make these, 21 days to create a new habit. All these different things that creates your microenvironment and that really makes it important for you. So, as you're thinking about these things and as, we go through, the different weeks, be mindful of, really what you're wanting to create. And, think about, staying on the bus. You think about, well, how many times you kind of, you hear the old saying, fall off the wagon. You'll fall off the wagon. I'll get back on Monday or whatever. So you are doing these things because you want to. You're taking control of your health because you want to. We are, as coaches, we guide people through that process. We're one-on-one. We have that connection, and we want to help people, but only if they want to help themselves. We can't make people do things. So, it's very, always think about the different things that you're wanting to create, and maybe think about that tonight of what you took away from this class and what you can really maybe put into work into your life. And make those little small increment changes on a daily basis. So I hope this helped you for this week. We're going to go week 5 next week, and been a great one. You guys, everybody have a good night tonight, and we'll see everybody next Tuesday night, 6:30 Pacific time, every 6:30, every Tuesday night at 6:30. So have a great one. See you next week.